My mother-in-law demanded $50,000 for putting up with me at my own wedding, but what she said at the end shattered everything I believed in. Dear viewers, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Hey, I'm Christina, and what happened that day changed my life forever. I thought I knew what my mother-in-law Barbara was capable of, but I had no idea just how deep human cruelty could go. It all started on an ordinary Thursday. My husband Jason got home from work around 7 p.m. I heard his keys clatter onto the wooden console in the hallway of our Denver suburb townhouse. Normally, he'd call out, "Hey, babe," but this time, the house was filled with silence. I was sitting at the kitchen table staring at a blank spot on the white wall. In front of me was a mug of cold green tea, my favorite from Starbucks, untouched. My mind was spiraling around a phone call I'd gotten an hour earlier. "What's wrong with your face, babe?" Jason's voice snapped me out of it. Dot. He stood in the kitchen doorway, still in his gray suit, tie loosened. His brown eyes scanned my face with concern. After 3 years of marriage, Jason could tell when something was off. I knew how I looked. That morning, I'd carefully done my makeup and styled my blonde hair for my job at an ad agency. But now, I felt drained, like every ounce of energy had been sucked out of me. "Nothing, just tired," I said, my voice flat. Dot. Jason knew that tone. It only came out when something awful had happened, and I was trying to handle it alone to avoid upsetting him. He walked over, placed his warm hands on my shoulders, and gave them a gentle squeeze. My shoulders were tense as steel. "Chris, I can tell something's wrong. Talk to me." I stayed silent for a minute, gathering my strength. Fragments of the conversation raced through my head, each of Barbara's words burning like acid. Finally, I looked up at him. There were no tears in my eyes, just cold, exhausted anger. "Your mom called." Jason straightened instantly. I felt his back muscles tense under his shirt. He didn't ask questions, just waited. "She's demanding we pay her back. $50,000, says it's what we owe her for the wedding." The kitchen went silent. Jason slowly walked around the table and sat in his chair, locking eyes with me. "What the hell kind of debt?" he said, cursing, which was rare for him. "She didn't lift a finger to help with the wedding. All she did was criticize the napkin colors and my dress. She even refused to get us a gift. How could I forget? Barbara had declared she wouldn't waste money on a spectacle. Jason and I had planned everything ourselves. The flowers, the DJ, everything. We drained our savings and took out a loan to make it happen." "That's exactly her point," I said with a bitter smirk. "She says she spent too much emotional energy on us. It's moral compensation for having to endure a gold digger like me." Jason's face flushed with anger. He stood abruptly, grabbed his iPhone, and dialed his mother's number. His fingers trembled with rage. I didn't try to stop him, I just watched his jaw clench. "Hello?" Barbara's voice came through, bright and smug. "Mom, what's going on?" "What debt?" Jason started, his voice low and strained, skipping any greeting. "Oh, you, sweetie," Barbara replied, not a hint of shame in her tone, only triumph. "So your precious wife finally told you. I figured she'd run to her friends to borrow money so you wouldn't find out. It's a simple debt for my suffering." Jason shook his head, disbelief written all over his face. "Mom, why would we owe you for our wedding? You didn't contribute a dime, just criticized." "Exactly," Barbara hissed, her voice shifting from smug to venomous. "I had to watch that circus, that painted-up girl, and my heart bled. I didn't sleep for nights thinking about the mistake you were making. It was torture, and torture deserves payment. 50 grand is a bargain for my gray hairs." Listening through the phone speaker, something inside me broke. Not anger, I'd already felt that. It was a cold, steely calm. "Got it," Jason said, his tone so chilling it gave me goosebumps. "Compensation, understood. Don't call again, ever. I'll reach out if I feel like it." He hung up. We didn't talk about the call for the rest of the evening. We both knew this wasn't the end. It was the start of a war. Jason's silence was answered with an invasion. On Saturday morning, as we sipped coffee in the living room, the front door lock clicked twice. We froze, exchanging a glance. No one had a key except her. "Jason, Christina, I'm here." Barbara's voice echoed from the hallway. She appeared in the doorway, dressed to intimidate. A sharp navy suit, her gray hair perfectly styled, bright red lipstick like war paint. Not angry, but radiating cold, inspecting calm Dot. Her eyes swept the room, lingering on the magazines, coffee mugs, and the blanket on the couch. "I thought this place would at least be clean," she said evenly, like she was commenting on the weather. Not a question, not a jab, just a statement. Worse than any critique. Jason set his mug down slowly. The sound of ceramic on wood was unnaturally loud. "What are you doing here, Mom?" "I came to see how my son lives," she replied, stepping into the room. Her heels clicked sharply on the hardwood. She ignored me like I was furniture. And to look into the eyes of the woman turning him against his own mother. Only then did she turn to me. Her gaze was heavy, like a physical weight. "I was waiting for your call, dear," she continued, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "I thought you'd have a shred of conscience, but I guess you think you've caught a golden ticket. Hide behind Jason and the problem disappears?" Something snapped in me. The mask of exhaustion fell away, replaced by sharp anger. I stood from the couch. "We don't owe you anything, Barbara. Not a cent." She raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow, feigning surprise. "Don't owe me? You live in a house I helped choose, drive a car I put the down payment on, wear a ring bought with my support. You think that all fell from the sky?" She paused, savoring her words. "No, that was my son. My son, who I birthed, raised, and educated. When I see him wasting his life on her," she pointed a manicured finger at me, "I'm entitled to compensation for the emotional damage." She said it with such conviction, her twisted logic almost felt real. For a moment, the ground shifted beneath me. But Jason stood up. He didn't yell or wave his arms. He simply stepped between us, his body a shield. "Enough. You came to keep up this circus. If you want money, I'll write a check right now. But then you're out of our lives." "I don't want your money." Her voice cracked with a shrill edge for the first time. "I want her to pay, to understand that everything has a price, especially stealing a son from his mother." Her voice grew hysterical, red splotches blooming on her neck. Jason stared at her, studying her like he was seeing her for the first time. He'd made his decision. "The key," he said quietly, deliberately. "What?" "The key to our house. Put it on the table and leave." Barbara let out a dry, scornful laugh, perfected over years. She slowly pulled a key ring from her purse, singled out a shiny new key, and dangled it in the air. "This key? The one you gave me when we moved in? Remember? Mom, now you can help if something happens. A symbol of a mother's care, and you're asking me to take it back?" Her voice wavered, and for a split second, I almost believed her sincerity. "Jason, listen to yourself. Kicking out your own mother, those aren't your words. She put them in your mouth." Her gaze flicked to me, a mix of superiority and hatred. She looked at me like I was a virus infecting her son. Jason didn't budge. His face was calm, unreadable. That calm was scarier than any shout. I didn't ask. I said, "Put the key down. This isn't your home anymore. You have no reason to come here." "Oh, is that so?" She stepped forward, invading his space. "And who made the down payment for this fortress? Who got a friend at the bank to secure your sweetheart mortgage? Who gave you the Honda you drive her around in?" She gestured at me without looking. "You think all that came from your pretty eyes and college degree?" Every word was calculated to humiliate, to remind us of our supposed debt. Her trump card, maternal help as a trap disguised as love. I stayed silent but stepped forward. Not toward them, but to show I was here, part of this family. Undeniable. I looked not at Barbara, but at Jason, my gaze full of trust in him, in us. That quiet alliance flipped a switch in Jason. He looked at his mother, weighing her words and finding them empty. "The Honda," he repeated slowly. "Right. You gave us that car 3 years ago." Barbara's voice lit up with triumph, thinking she'd cracked his armor. "Finally, a drop of gratitude." "Gratitude." Jason nodded, a cold smile touching his lips. "Here's the deal. You have 24 hours to drop your financial demands on my wife. If you or anyone acting for you contacts Christina with claims after that, I'll do something simple. Oh, he paused, letting the silence sink in. I'll sell the Honda, the one you gifted, and give every cent to Christina as compensation for her stress. Got it? Dead silence. Barbara froze, key in hand, like a wax figure, her carefully built world, where she was the benefactor and her son the debtor, collapsed in an instant. Jason didn't just reject her help. He turned her greatest gift into a weapon against her. He used her own logic, aimed straight at her heart. I saw her mask of propriety crack, raw fury breaking through. Her son had declared war on her terms, and she was losing. But Barbara didn't go down easily. Her expression shifted from rage to something else. She stood still, her mind racing. Jason's ultimatum broke every rule of her decades-long game. Her lips curled into a chilling smile, not amusement but venomous clarity. She'd lost the battle. Now she'd burn the battlefield. You think this is about 50 grand? Her voice was soft, sinister. She lowered the key. Jason, my naive boy, you don't get it. I was giving her a chance to act human. She paused, savoring the moment. She stopped looking at Jason and fixed her eyes on me. I stood pale, sensing the final blow coming. Tell me, son, she continued, speaking to Jason but staring at me. Do you think she's with you for love? The air thickened. My heart skipped a beat. Your precious Christina came to me a month before the wedding. Alone, sat in my kitchen, sipped coffee. Told me how wonderful but impractical you are. I couldn't breathe. It was a monstrous lie, but it sounded so convincing. And she offered a deal, Barbara went on, relishing each word. Jason was silent. The world was crumbling. A deal. Christina said if I paid her $1,000 a month, she'd make sure you didn't waste money on nonsense. She'd steer you in the right direction, control your spending. No, that never happened. She knows how to manipulate you. Her exact words, I know how to handle him. She wanted to sell me the leash to my own son. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. When I refused and kicked her out, she threw that cheap wedding at your expense to lock you down before you realized who you'd married. Barbara stood tall, victorious. 50 grand isn't my debt. It's her penalty for breaking our verbal agreement. The lie was so meticulously crafted, it explained everything. Her hatred, the money demands, her efforts to tear us apart. Jason slowly turned his gaze from his mother to me. I saw his face, watched him process what he'd heard, a flicker in his eyes, doubt, shock at the audacity of the lie. I looked at him, feeling everything, our love, our marriage, our trust, hanging by a thread, waiting for his next words. Jason, I whispered, it's not true, not a single word. I know, he said softly. I couldn't believe my ears. He turned to his mother. In his eyes, no doubt, no anger, just cold, final emptiness. Got it, he said, even quieter. He stepped forward, reached out, and plucked the key from her fingers. Barbara, stunned by his calm, didn't resist. She'd expected yelling, arguments, tears, anything but this icy certainty, anything but his absolute trust in me. Let's go. He didn't take her arm or push her. He turned and walked to the door, knowing she'd follow, mesmerized. Her plan had crashed spectacularly. I heard the door open, muffled voices in the hall, then a slam. A minute later, Jason returned, already dialing a number. Hello, locksmith. I need an urgent lock change on my front door, right now if possible. He gave our address, discussed the price and timing. Great, I'll see you in an hour. He hung up and looked at me. I was on the couch, hands clenched into fists, body shaking with adrenaline. You believed me? He sat beside me, taking my cold hands in his warm ones. Chris, babe, I've known you for 3 years. I've seen you return extra change at the store, stress over accidentally stepping on someone's foot in the subway. You're not capable of what she described. Ever. The tears I'd held back broke free. I buried my face in his chest and sobbed, letting out all the stress, all the pain. But what if you ever doubt me? I hiccuped. What if she plants seeds of doubt? Never, he said firmly, stroking my hair. Know why? I looked up, eyes red and teary. Because if you wanted to control me, you wouldn't have let me buy that $500 PlayStation last week, or order pizza 3 times in 1 week, or roll your eyes at my latest comic book T-shirt. Despite the tears, I laughed. He was right. I grumbled about his boyish purchases, but never stopped him. And besides, he added, serious now, she said you visited her a month before the wedding. Remember what was happening then? I frowned, thinking back. You had the flu, a fever of 104. I didn't leave your side for 3 days. Exactly. You didn't leave the house. You fed me soup, put cold compresses on my forehead, checked my temperature every 2 hours. When would you have had time to visit my mom? Of course. How could I forget those days, terrified of taking him to the hospital? She didn't even bother to make her lie believable. It was a desperate attempt to destroy what we have, the last shot of a loser. I hugged him tighter, the tension melting away. What now? Now we live our lives. No interference, no drama, no poison, just us. An hour later, the locksmith arrived, a no-nonsense guy in his 40s who swapped out the lock in 20 minutes. Jason paid $200 cash and got 2 sets of keys. No one's coming in uninvited anymore, he said, handing me my set. The keys felt warm from his hand, heavier somehow, a symbol of a new life, of safety. 6 months have passed. Barbara hasn't called, visited, or sent gifts. We've heard through mutual friends that she's telling everyone what a terrible daughter-in-law I am, how I stole her son. But it doesn't touch us anymore, That ordeal brought Jason and me closer. The crisis showed we're a team, capable of weathering any storm. Our trust is stronger than steel. I often think back to the day Barbara came with her final, desperate blow. Her lie was so monstrous it could have destroyed any relationship, but she miscalculated. She didn't understand that real love doesn't need proof. It's built on knowing someone, on years of shared moments, on 1,000 little things you can't fake. In the end, Barbara punished herself. She lost her son trying to control his life. Now she sits alone in her perfect house, surrounded only by bitterness and regret. And us, we're happy. We have each other, and that's enough, What did you think of this story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and share it with your friends.